Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today is my March reading wrap up. So for the month of March, I read 10 books. I read 3 YA, 2 romance, 1 nonfiction, and 4 literary fiction books. So 7 of these were books off my physical TBR, and then 3 of them were, one of them was from Kindle Unlimited, and 2 of them I checked out from the library for audiobooks. So the first, these are not in the order that I read them. I'm trying to like group series together and stuff. So the first 2 I'm going to talk about are the Sisters of the Salt series. I read the first 2 books, and the second one the third one is supposed to come out, I believe in 2026 is what I saw on Goodreads. House of Salt and Sorrows, and then House of Roots and Ruin. House of Salt and Sorrows, I gave 5 stars. It is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, and these are both YA horror, which is kind of interesting. It's not something that like I hear super often. I had seen this book around in Barnes & Noble and I was very like interested in it, but I have been trying to like cut back on my book buying, and I try to be really intentional with the books that I buy. So I chose not to purchase it, but it's amazing, and especially with the first one, if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, for whatever reason, that atmosphere very much reminded me of the Iron Islands, which is like so niche, but if you know what I'm talking about, like that's how the first book feels. And in terms of like first and second book, they're kind of like interconnected standalones. So you don't have to read the first one to read the second one, but it like makes more sense if you do. So then House of Roots and Ruin is about one of the sisters. So the first one, you have I think the second oldest, and then the second book is about the youngest. And the way I kind of saw that one, it's a lot more like scientific horror. I think that's where I'm going to leave it on that, but it's super interesting, and there is like a subplot of romance and different like magical elements to the books. They're so good. Hopefully any of that made sense, but so I gave the first one 5 stars and the second one 4 stars. Next books I'm going to talk about, I finally finished the Chestnut Spring series. So first I read Reckless, which is Winter and Theo's story. I gave this 5 stars, probably one of the easiest 5 stars I've ever read, or I've ever given. I've never read Accidental Pregnancy, and I don't know if, I know a lot of people don't like that trope, so now after reading this one and how good it was, I don't know if I want to read other accidental pregnancies. As someone who is like not knowing if they want to have children themselves, but I think the biggest thing about this is seeing the way that the male main character, Theo, steps up. It is just like so heartwarming. It's beautiful, and I love it. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that one. This one, I have a lot more to say. So Hopeless, I gave 3 stars. I did not like this book. I think that the age gap in it is kind of ridiculous. There's no reason why Bailey had to be 22 years old. Also, no reason why they had to make her a virgin. Then continue to talk about it because it's so important, but at the same time not so important. The power dynamics were like kind of weird because Beau could kind of do whatever he wanted, but then he also was like kind of controlling to Bailey. I don't understand why Bailey was trying to like fix him, because he didn't want to fix himself, and I just was like really disgusted at the way that it's just like, love will cure his PTSD even though he doesn't want to go to therapy. Like, he has a short stint with alcoholism because he decided to drink 5 nights in a row, and when the girl told him not to, he stopped. I just think that like there are so many things that were going on with the character of Beau that he himself did not want to fix, and I think that is the biggest thing, is like he did not want to fix himself. It's like, oh well, he fixed himself for her. No, that's not what happened. She did like everything for him to try and fix him. And even at the end of the book, it's not like he's suddenly just like fixed. And like, I get it, we're all works in progress, but there is no reason why this man should have been entering a relationship, especially with someone so much younger. And I understand that if they wanted to make her like younger than the other women, they could have bumped her up to like 24. And she could still have dreams and aspirations. She can still like go to college and do all these things, and they can, you know, there's just no reason why it had to play out the way that it did. Now it's just like kind of disgusted by the whole thing. So that's Hopeless by Elsie Silver. I want to read more Elsie Silver, like understand that like I loved the rest of the Chestnut Spring series. I am really excited to read the Gold Rush Ranch and the other series that she's come out with. Like, I really like Elsie Silver's writing. I just was really disgusted by the, like, different things that were in this book in particular. But I do recommend the Chestnut Spring series as a whole. Next is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I gave this 3 stars. It's a really short book. I very much enjoyed it, but I think I'd want to reread it. I listened to it on audiobook while I was traveling for work earlier in March, and it's just like a very weird, kind of twisty-turny book. We are in the heads of Mary Cat, which is this character right here, and there's sort of like a mystery element to it. So she lives with her uncle, her older sister in this ginormous mansion. She comes from a very well-off family, but they all died suddenly. I think it's like 7 or 8 years ago when this book takes place. And basically, the townspeople think that they're like cursed. And yeah, just a little short thing. 3 stars. I really don't have much to say on this one. Next one is the one nonfiction I read for this month. I listened to Untamed by Glennon Doyle. This is a memoir-esque, it is a memoir book, but it also talks a lot about just like life in general, and basically about women not pleasing the people around them. So if you are a people pleaser, this book is really for you. It's very fast-paced, it's very introspective. I really liked the way that Glennon talked about parenthood and like being a woman and queerness. So basically what happens in this book is Glennon, obviously it's a memoir, so it's about her, she meets another woman while she's out doing press for another book that she has released, and just like falls in love right away. But she's married and has kids, and so it's kind of about the way in which she took control of her life and was able to kind of have it all, but not in the perfect sort of way that, you know, women are superheroes and women can do it all. It's a beautiful story, and it doesn't just revolve around their love story. It revolves a lot around Glennon taking control of her life in all aspects, being a better parent, figuring out how she wants to present herself to the media. You know, does she come out as lesbian or bisexual, and how would the media, you know, receive that, especially because other books that she has written are about being a biblical woman, which I also think is really interesting, the way in which like religion is talked about in this book. I very much enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars just because towards the end it did start to drag a little bit, but overall I really, really liked this book. Recovering People Pleasers, definitely a book for you. Is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I also listened to this one on audiobook. This book, what I keep saying to people is this book walked so my year of rest and relaxation could run. But if I were to choose between the two, I would choose my year of rest and relaxation. This book, I'm not going to sit here and assume that everyone knows everything about like online discourse. The big thing that people talk about with this book is like the fig tree analogy, and then when she talks about like basically being in a bell jar, which is what the book is titled after. This book is a work of fiction, but it is memoir-esque. So Sylvia Plath, this is written about a summer that Sylvia Plath had while she was in college. And I could not rate it above a 3 stars based on the fact that there is blatant racism and homophobia in this book that felt very like shoehorned into the story, and it was just so odd and off-putting, because it's like, okay, you're going along, you're listening, you know, whatever, and then it's just like bam, and you're like, where did that come from and why did it need to be put in there? So based on the fact that this book is memoir adjacent, makes me think that the author clearly thinks those things or did think those things. So I also can't really recommend this book. It's one of those books that's like, well-off girl goes into mental illness spiral. And that's kind of just what it's about. It didn't resonate with me. I am going to unhaul this book. I was just kind of like, I don't know. Like I said, if you're wanting something like this, go for My Year of Rest and Relaxation. You're gonna get the same thing. But even the character development, what little there was, and the way in which you're in the head of the main character of My Year of Rest and Relaxation feels like more than what this gave me. Oh gosh, I maybe shouldn't have ended with the ones that weren't very good. So, next one I read was Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. This is the first, I didn't realize that this was a series. It is the first book in the Earthseed series, and I will not be continuing this at all. I did not enjoy this book. Basically, the whole premise is that this girl, so it starts when she's like 15, 16, because it's told through journal entries, which is interesting, but she's like, she lives in a religious gated community while the rest of the world is like starving and killing each other for food, and she doesn't like her parents' religion. So what does she do? She starts her own. I just thought it was kind of like hypocritical that this girl who is like so young, and I think even when the book ends, she's only like 18, 19, maybe 20, and she's like, it very much gives like, I'm gonna start a cult. And there was just a lot of like violence in this book, but all of our main characters were basically like plot armored to all of the violence that goes on. It was also very hard to understand the world building in this book. It didn't give what I thought it was going to give, and maybe that's my fault, but like based on the back, I don't know. And like, yeah, I could read the rest of it, but the rest of the series, but I really don't want to. Maybe someday, but I gave this 3 stars. I've read other dystopian, post-apocalyptic, whatever you want to call it, and I've liked it more. Mad Adam by Margaret Atwood, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, those ones are super, super good, but this one for me just was not it. And then the last book also was not for me and was not it, Tender is the Flesh by Augustana Bazterrica. This book is so weird, the premise of the book is all animal meat is tainted, so what happens is that we have to start eating human meat. That baseline, that is what the book is about. Our main character, we are kind of thought to that like he doesn't like what he's doing. He sees these people as humans, like he still has his humanity. And so we're going through, and like the world is so interesting, but yet we only get to see glimpses of this world. It is such and like this is a short book. It's so like narrow in the way that this story is told, and I felt like the ending of this book really it undoes a lot of like what I feel like this book was trying to do. So I gave it 3 stars. It was interesting, concept was interesting, but it just wasn't, I feel like it didn't give what it was trying to give. And then there is one last book that I did forget. I read The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. The first one was offered on Kindle Unlimited, of course, just the first one. And I normally am not a mystery reader, but I was like, this might be kind of fun. Who knows? I very much enjoyed it. It was so entertaining. It was so fun. If you don't know what The Inheritance Games is about, it's about this girl named Avery, and she one day just like inherits an entire fortune from this huge billionaire who lives in Texas. And part of the will is that she has to live in his huge big mansion for an entire year with his 4 grandsons, his 2 daughters, and like pretty much everyone who precedes him when he passes away. The billionaire was a man who really liked games and riddles and all this sort of stuff, and so essentially her and then the 3 of the 4 grandsons end up kind of trying to figure out why, you know, she was chosen, and the entire book is about that. And so I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I thought it was really good. Good enough, in fact, that I did put the other books on hold at the library. You're going to hear what I think, at least about the second one in April, because I have already finished that. That gives you a little idea of what I think about it, because it is only April 3rd. But yeah, so that is everything I read this month. It was a very interesting reading month, to say the least, and I hope that April is a better reading month. I don't know, I just feel like this month could have been better, but unfortunately it wasn't. But that's okay, because April's a new month, and I have a hefty TBR, so stay tuned for that. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a big like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you're reading down in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!